Hello, everyone. Joe Soto here, and I have a special guest with me. I have Tom Hopkins, who's the really doesn't need any introduction, but I'm going to do it anyway. Tom, he's the best-selling author of one of my favorite books, which is How to Master the Art of Selling, that you wrote quite a while back. This is the 25th anniversary edition. I'm holding in my hands, Tom, and I can't say enough about how this played a part in my professional sales career very early on back in my, I know I still look like I'm in my 20s, but back in my 20s, when I was first starting out, there was literally a handful of books that were my Bibles for selling, and yours was one of them. And so I'm honored to have you here today, and we're going to talk social media and how that's changed. I had a social media agency for the past 3 years that's now kind of in my past. We now have an inbound marketing company that embraces some pieces of social media. We're very excited at Revenue Inbound to be doing some unique things out there. But I think we've got a hot topic here because I believe for social media to work, it takes humans to work it. And I think that there's there's a gap right now in the marketplace that you can help us clarify and get our heads wrapped around. So to start with, when you think of social media and all the doors that it's opened for how people can now connect with each other, what do you say to the new young sales professional, someone like myself, almost 20 years ago, coming out into the real world, if you will, who's really leaning on and believing that they can rely on social media to build relationships with prospects? And that's kind of the world they were raised in. What would you say to that person?
Well, I'd start off, Joe, by saying that social media is a wonderful, new, exciting tool, but it's like every tool. You cannot just rely on it. I mean, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the others are wonderful, and I heartily suggest that a professional salesperson use it as part of their sales skills, sales tools. But what can happen, because it's almost like a blessing and a curse at the same time.
Yeah.
It can be a blessing to establish relationships, a blessing to follow up with clientele, a blessing to really get your message out to more people. However, it's kind of like a good analogy would be a golf club analogy, meaning you have 14 clubs allowed in your bag, and you cannot make a lot of money in golf if you just rely on being a good driver. You must be a good driver, a good chipper, a good sand player, a good putter, and by having all those skills, then you earn lots of money. Well, it's the same with social media. It can be a tremendous benefit, but if a person relies on it in a way of avoiding a lot of the people contacts, in other words, hiding behind technology, can now turn into a negative. Because, again, it's almost like saying, I want my technology to do all the work. And see, you don't get rejected or handle any failure with social media, but you do when you go and make a telephone call to meet someone, or to go out into a territory and talk with either neighbors or business owners. But there again, I would say this: if we didn't have social media back in my real estate career,
right?
Had we, I would have mastered it as one of the skills. I still would have learned all my people skills, the art of communication, and using the fundamentals of selling in connection with social media. And that's a great combination.
Yeah, to think that, when you wrote your book that's sold over 1 million plus copies, it is heavy dosed in fundamental communication skills that I don't think they're teaching in schools any more today than they were back then. But when I look at, to your point, when I look at how high tech we are, I still think high touch trumps it. I always say that people skills trumps social media skills. But if I could have one or the other, I'll rely on my face to face, my interpersonal relationship skills to go out and meet someone and get in front of them. over being able to communicate online any day. And this is coming from somebody who's immersed themselves in learning social media and social media online marketing for the last 3 years. So what would you say, and what would you pinpoint as the important people skills that a new person coming into to a sales career, maybe someone new to sales, should be mastering, that they could then transfer that know-how of people skills onto how they're using social media tools?
Well, I will say this. Here's an overall generality. I believe that you have to work harder on yourself than you do on any job to become a person with a temperament and a personality where people want and are gravitating to you by the way you handle them, the way you communicate with them. If I was in an elevator and had 5 floors to travel with this person, and they said to me, Tom, I know who you are. I've read your books. I've listened to your CDs and seen your DVDs. What is the real secret to be really successful in selling? I would say work harder on yourself to become a person that people like and trust and then want to listen to. And I feel with social media, it's the same thing. You have to establish a way to get the rapport built, to bring down their defense barriers, to have them open their minds to want to communicate. And again, you combine the people skills with high technology and social media, and now you've got a very powerful combination.
Yeah, I use the analogy, if I just met you in person and I asked you, I said, hi, I'm Joe, and then I asked you for your money, there's no relationship, no trust. You're just not going to do that. And,
Sure.
And online, the internet is no different. You still have to build a relationship that's going to take time over time online. And so sometimes what you learn in terms of the people skills offline is exactly what it takes to be successful online. You got to give it time. It's not overnight. But somehow, I still see websites I've never been to, and then when I land on them, they're asking for my money right away. And there's no nurturing of a relationship there, and I think that's where it's changing. It's definitely changing, and that's where email marketing and blogging comes in, because it gives people an opportunity to communicate and stay in front of their customers in a way that's nurturing them along the way, not just saying, "Here, give me your money." And I think that's important. So, in a world where I think we're overtrained on technology now, right? I'm seeing more training on how to use social media and how to use internet marketing than I am this stuff. So we're not as well trained in communication skills and human selling skills, right? So what do you say to sales leaders? What do they do to make sure that their people, their sales teams are well trained and well coached to be the best at what I think matters most, which is the human side of this business?
Well, I also feel they have to realize that there are 3 key components to what you do, be it in person, be it on the internet, be it with social media. And I really believe that all of us are doing 3 things in the field of sales, regardless of the media. I think that we must educate people. I think many people are not aware they are educators as to the benefits of the product, not only features, but the benefits. Yeah. Then the second thing we do after there's education in this whole process is to motivate. Meaning I think we have to develop a way to motivate people to take action. And I look at motivation. This word is out there so strong today. Yeah. Well, I look at the word motivation, and to me it means the motive for an action. Yeah. Meaning, motivation is the motivation for why you're doing something. Like people come to my seminars, Joe, and the main reason is because they know they can increase their effectiveness, their skill level, and that combined with everything else, they make more money, have a better lifestyle, are happier, and fulfill their potential. So we have to educate, motivate, and the third ingredient is very important, and that is you have to have fun.
Yeah, I love that.
I think people want to enjoy the time they spend. One of the reasons why about every 6 minutes in a presentation, either live or even on all of my different books or CDs, I try to build in humor. Yeah. Because people can't sit. Our normal seminars, 6 hours long.
Yeah, it's a long time.
To sit and listen to someone for 6 hours, if it's boring, people are not going to be retaining material. They aren't going to be listening intently. So again, if I can educate and they feel they're getting information that'll make them a better person, if I can motivate them to do something at the end of the program, say, you can have all the excitement in the world. It's like the guy that's so enthusiastic, but he never leaves his home.
Right, right.
He's not going to do well. Right. But if you can wrap up that whole envelope where you educate people, motivate them to make a decision and take action, and then have them have fun in the process, that's when you've really got a powerful, I think, presentation.
And this is social media advice, not just sales advice. That's what I love about it, because think about what we're trying to accomplish online. It isn't any different. This is congruent or consistent with what I've been saying for 3 years, having come out of the sales world myself, that social media is to be good at it, to get good at it, is just applying what you know offline that you've learned through sales or you learned through good communication training. And that's what's missing, is they haven't had it, some people, right? I've met people, I'll give you an example. I've met people at conferences, at social media conferences that I've tweeted with or I've connected with on LinkedIn, and you meet them in person and they can't even establish eye contact with you. They don't know how to give you a firm handshake. Really? Great. And I'm like, wait a minute, this person has no people skills in person, but online they made themselves appear something that they really weren't, and so you're not the full package. And educating people online about your products and services, and social media gives you an opportunity to do that. Motivating people to take action by using call to actions or giving people those action steps they can take, but to get them to retain it or to make you memorable and to keep that information ongoing, you've got to be entertaining. You've got to be fun. You know? So I'm sitting here taking notes on it because I think this isn't, I know you want to give sales advice, but this is social media advice. And it works both ways for people. But it's pretty hard to do those things online if you don't know how to do them offline.
Very, very well put.
Yeah. Okay, so next question I have is just talking about the differences, and this came from having a discussion with Barb in our office yesterday. She was talking about the differences between online and offline communication. So, and we just kind of segued into it with our last piece. What advice would you give someone who's leaning on social media sites to start the conversation with prospects? And at what point should they put value in? Hey, I'll give you put value in the face-to-face conversation or the phone conversation. For instance, we had a call this morning with someone, and it started online. It turned into a phone call, and I said, let's get in our car next week and drive up and see him. Now, I think where some sales professionals go wrong, and I own a professional service firm, right? And so we sell an intangible service, which is inbound marketing products and services online. And so, but I still know the value in just getting in my car and driving, even if it's 3 or 4 hours, to go meet with that person face to face. Because I said, that's going to mean more than us having another teleconference call or connecting with them on LinkedIn or answering questions through email. It doesn't have the weight. So what do you say to somebody who says, I think I can lean on it. I think I don't need to do that. I can just handle it through the internet.
Well, I would say they're robbing themselves of business, of income, because they are focusing on one entity instead of the entire package. And there are fundamentals, and I know you know them because obviously if you've studied my work, but things are important. Punctuality is something that most people today don't think about. But I think, be it social media, if I'm going to make a contact with you at 10, then it's not 10:05, it's not 10:10, it's exactly 10. And I think people in social media, if they're going to be using that as the process, they need to let people know they're on time. You know, hi Joe, this is Tom. I told you we'd connect at 10 o'clock, and hey, Yes, sirree, right at 10. How are you? See, I have in essence said to you, I value your time. And if you tell me 10, it's going to be 10. Where many people in sales are always running late. And there are people, I'm sure, in using your wonderful tools that aren't punctual. So the punctuality is important. Yeah. And again, here you said you got in your car to go meet people who you had all this relationship via the media, but you also, I'm sure, gave them good eye contact. Sure. You looked them in the eyes. They saw you were listening. You were focused. You weren't kind of having your mind wander. I'm sure if you shook their hand, it was a deep, firm handshake. Because, see, people are constantly judging us. Yeah. I will guarantee you, using social media, the people are judging how you come across, judging what you are using it for and how you're using it. Well, it's the same in the communication skills. You have to really ask a lot of questions. See, most people in sales are great talkers. They're great tellers. But I've had a total belief I've lived by, Joe, that you'll get everything in life you want when you stop telling and master the art of asking. In fact, one of the new concepts I'm teaching is how to become a master asker. I thought let's take asking questions and make it a generality of asker, but then you don't want to just be an asker. You want to be a master asker. It's kind of like if a person says, I'm just going to ask questions. And so they meet a person, a woman, and they say, hey, I'm going to ask questions. Are you ready? Ma'am, you look great. Is that a new girdle? Well, see, that is the wrong type of question, and it'll backfire, and it will not only not work, it'll be negative. Right. So as a master asker, you have to really work on learning the right types of questions, questions they can answer. One of the things I worry about with some people in social media, they are geniuses, and they know it so well, but then they're working with a client who is kind of a layman in the field, who doesn't grasp it real well. And I have always tried, Joe, to live with a make other people feel important, and make sure you don't threaten them with your knowledge. Yeah. And that, I think, is important. I've had people come into my office that are highly skilled in technology, and they almost overwhelm us with their knowledge. And I sit there. Of course, people aren't going to say, I'm not real smart. Can you cover that again? They aren't going to. They're just going to nod, and they're going to keep saying, I don't get it, to themselves. Right. And I'm going to find someone that makes it easy, because I'm threatened by all this high technology that's not coming across with simplicity. Yeah.
This is, I think, a competitive advantage in business, which is being able to take, particularly for professional service firms like myself that have technology-related services, and this goes for anybody selling really anything, right? To be able to, dumb it down and simplify and explain something in a way that your audience, online or offline, is going to understand it, and it's probably the highest compliment I could receive, and I've received it often when I do presentations that are social media focused, but my audience are the laymen in social media, but they're sales professionals or business professionals or managers who are still trying to wrap their head around it. To me, the highest compliment is, I finally get it. You put it in a way for me to understand what this is about and how I need to look at social media. So when someone says, for Joe, what's social media? And I say, it's word of mouth marketing powered by the internet. That's a simple way to understand it, right?
Definitely.
It's applying relationship building techniques that offline and doing the same type of behaviors online. You're just using tools as a medium to get your message out. You can't sacrifice your communication skills and your people skills for what you're going to try and do online. That comes first. But I think today, and I've had the experience of working with the younger groups, the millennials coming out of school. They're high tech. I have a couple of sons in college, so I know this firsthand. And they sometimes come out with the belief that, hey, I'm a good communicator because I know how to use these tools. So that what you're saying is, can't be any more important. I think what you were saying about, and I wrote it down about being the master asker, also very important for getting people to engage with you online. So if you're applying that same philosophy, Tom, and whoever's watching this who's thinking, how do I use it online? It's simple. Learn to ask great questions on Facebook. Ask great questions on Twitter. Ask great questions on LinkedIn, and get your potential prospects or people who might refer business to you ultimately someday, get them talking and get them giving you insightful answers that can then lead you further down the relationship, because you're learning how to ask great questions. Don't just talk at people online either. It goes for in person, but it also applies online. So again, you're giving social media advice maybe without knowing it.
I definitely agree. I think, well, to give you an example, what you've done, Joe, for our little company here in Scottsdale, Arizona, has been worth so much. Judy and Frank have said, gosh, Joe and Barbara are opening our minds, are opening our eyes to things we never dreamed of. And I said, good, well, this is the steps to the future. Yeah. And you can't fight change. You can't fight the future. But I still believe that you can combine the two. Oh, yeah. It's kind of like, years and years ago when I first started in the field of sales. I was probably one of the first people that became a fanatic at sending thank you notes. Yeah. Well, I think using the internet, you can do the same thing of thanking people. You can come up with some cute, clever little thank you messages that they will not only think are valuable and nice, but again, more rapport building, more I like you, trust you.
That's right.
Many people don't thank people today, but I wrote 10 professionally edited thank you notes, and people have access to them by going to our website, and they can just click in free resources.
Yeah.
And we will send them via the net resources that are totally free. Thank you notes, what phraseology to use, how to make the first contact. Yeah. And again, these are all strategies that have proven to work in the actual people skills, but they can work beautifully in social media as well.
That's right. Well, I still think there's a lot of value in somebody getting a physical thank you card or thank you note from you.
I agree.
There's online tools, obviously, that can help you bridge that. But I'll give you an example. I was at a conference 2-3 weeks ago in Chicago, and while I was there, I met a gentleman who had some services that he could definitely provide as a vendor to me that could help me. And it's here on my desk here, actually, the little thank you card. He sent this to me physically, and writes a little note in it, a handwritten note, right, which is so cool. Not enough people are doing this, right? But he did a handwritten note and said, it was a pleasure meeting you at the event in Chicago. If there's anything I can do to assist you. Here's the kicker. I just threw it. He sent that card before he left the conference, because I got it the day after I got back. I mean, I just gotten back, and I'm like, wait a minute. He didn't go all the way back to Indiana and then mail it. He had these with him so he could be on top of it within a 24-hour period of meeting somebody. He was sending out a great to meet you card. I just think, because he could have went on Twitter.
Sure.
He could. I'm on everything in social media. He could have went on Google Plus. He could have went on LinkedIn and thanked me.
Sure.
But he did it in a personalized way, and I've kept it on my desk. You know how many other people's cards I have on my desk like this? No one. This guy. So he's going to stand out.
What's so funny and wonderful is I tell my audiences that the handwritten thank you note has almost more importance and meaning today than it did back when I did it. Because back then, people started copying me.
Right.
When I was the top real estate agent in California, every other real estate agent would watch everything I did. So they started saying, this guy sends these little handwritten thank you notes. So they started doing it. And I believe today, no one's doing it.
Right.
Sure, you can do it verbally or you can do it on the internet, but I agree, be different. I've always tried, Joe, to teach people, be special, be different, do things no one else is doing, and you'll not only build a relationship, but people will beat a path to your door to do business with you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. One of the things that Barb in our office does is she'll send out, especially if she knows you drink coffee, these little thank you cards. It says thank you,
Oh,
and
that's so
and it's
great.
Starbucks, right? So they get their little branding. But some people will move mountains to get a free drink at Starbucks for the cost that it is nowadays. But I just think that's terrific. So she'll do things like that. You're right. 15, 20 years ago may not have seemed so different, but today, that's like, well, I can tangibly go do something and go and get a cup of coffee, all thanks to our group. So I love that. So when you're thinking about how social media has helped or hurt the sales profession today, what would you say you would narrow it down to? Here's where it's helped the most. Which, for example, I'll preface it with my opinion. I think it helps with research and prospecting, and maybe you can add to that. And then where it hurts, maybe the middle part, where you can prospect and but you can't close on social media. I can't get somebody to send me a signed agreement through Facebook. So I think, and I've heard people who've started their own companies who have at a young age become entrepreneurs, and then they come back and say, clients just don't fall out of trees. And I'm like, no, they don't. Our most important skill set might be our ability to sell, not our ability to deliver services, although that's an important function of what we do, but it might be our ability to sell. What do you say to that?
I just totally agree. As I studied you and your company and talked with Judy and Frank, it's amazing how much we have in common as to our belief in the people business combined with social media. Yeah. And I just feel that the biggest mistake people, I think, will make is to hide behind it, to say it will do my job. And I think if they do that, they're going to avoid the other steps. Again, they had a good drive. They just four-putted every green, which, of course, they will lose.
Right.
But I think that it's the same old story. You have to take the best and leave the rest of anything you're doing. And if you're relying on it to the point where you're not developing people relationships, and I will say this too, I hope that people realize that because of what social media offers, you can benefit globally. You aren't locked into a territory.
Right.
You aren't locked into the area where you live. I mean, what a tremendous advantage, again, if you become a master asker using the social media and doing all the little people skills at the same time.
Right. Yeah. So if somebody's using the internet or using LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter and seeing that, hey, let's just take real estate as an example, that they find it's easy to find out when someone's maybe moving to the area because they're talking about it on Twitter. It's one thing. Everybody has the same playing field. It's really leveled out because they can reach out and use the tools to get to that person. But I think the person who gets the sale is the person who ends up meeting with that buyer and is the most likable and has the skill sets, the best interest of the buyer in mind, who is going to win. I really like take the best and leave the rest, by the way. I wrote that down. But I think as we wrap up here, maybe the most insightful thing that we can take from this is that social media isn't going to do your job for you. It's not. You've said it a couple of times, and I want to reinforce it because I think it's important to distinguish that. And we use social media, and even our clients that say we've had clients come to us and they say, we want you to manage social media for us. So we want you to manage inbound marketing for us. We want you to manage this piece. And I say, we can do all these things, but at the end of the day, you can lead the horse to water, right?
Yes.
But if I can't make it drink. So
exactly,
if we can drive more traffic, if we can help convert that traffic into inquiries, that's a lead, right?
Right.
I can't do the rest. I can't go with you on a sales call. I'm not going to go do all that. And I think that's where it's still critical, and not critical. You've got an opportunity more than ever to do some of the things that that you've taught over the years, that you bring to the table. That I know that my son coming out of college, one of the first things that that he needs to do then is to continue his education by going to a seminar from someone like yourself and sitting through and learning from people that have already proven it out over the years. So I really appreciate you taking time today, Tom, and talking these things out, because I think it's as much as you may not even realize it. It's social media advice. It's marketing advice online. It's how do we get people to embrace the best of both sides, the human side and the tech side, the high touch and high tech, and still make it a high touch world when we're so inundated, right, with technology. You can't run from it, can't avoid it.
Right.
But you can maximize it with doing what you know. Do you have any parting thoughts to that? And as we wrap up?
Well, I will say this, that I think one of the big keys today is to make sure you have your short-term and long-term goals set. And too many people, I think, are kind of floating through life. They aren't focused on where they want to go. And I've always had a little belief that if you don't know where you're going, you're going to end up somewhere else. So you really need to get focused on the goals. And again, I come back to the fact that find a mentor. Find people like you, Joe, that they can rely on, or like myself in the people skill business. And I think you need to say, I'm looking for mentors that can help me be a better person first, then a better salesperson. Right. And there's a lot of them out there. But I just believe many people are kind of staying inside themselves or into the internet and technology. But I think they need to say, I am going to get people that are masters at what they do, and then I'm just going to copy what they do, internalize what they do. Because if you become a better you, you're going to relate to many more people in all aspects of your communication skills, your social media, and so forth.
That's right. And get your head out of your phone sometimes, right?
Yeah, right.
I run into people all the time, and they won't even look up. They're so busy on their phone. I want to just take it from them and throw it. But I appreciate it. I think this is words to live by here, and we've spent 30 minutes going through this, and I think that some people will not just take a lot of notes, but they've got some action items to kind of reevaluate how they are looking at their own sales career and how it relates to using social media tools, and what to value and in what order to value it in. So thanks again, Tom, for being with us, and we're going to wrap up, and just wish everyone great success. And hopefully, I know you've got a lot more books than the one that I was showing off here at the beginning, and I think a lot of them are very relevant in today's day and age. I know you got a new book coming out in the fall. We won't talk about it yet, but maybe in a future interview we will. So my best to you, and thanks again.
Thank you again, Joe.